Hi, I'm Victoria and I'm here to talk to you about gamification. So if you don't know what gamification is, that's totally fine. I personally didn't until I had to research it for uni, and I don't think I fully understood it until I started really going in depth for the purposes of this video. So I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of what gamification is for the purposes of building a baseline. From there we can build up. So gamification, in very basic terms, is the idea of making a task or an activity into a game. Predominantly this is done online, and it's done without people even knowing it. There are many different ways in which things are made gamified, and there are different kinds of players. Now in Kim's book, she explains there are 5 different types of players. So number 1 is the player, who is motivated by extrinsic rewards. Number 2 is the socializer, who is motivated by relatedness. Number 3 is the free spirit, who is motivated by autonomy. Number 4 is the achiever, who is motivated by mastery, and number 5 is the philanthropist, who is motivated by purpose. She then goes on to discuss that there are 2 different kinds of people in gamification. Those who are willing to play for extrinsic rewards, and those who are not. Engagement is essentially how successful the gamified process is. It's a way of measuring what makes for a good gamified experience, in that it says how engaging something is directly related, at least in gaming terms, to how successful the application will be. User engagement uses data like number of users, time spent using the application, as well as prizes and levels to quantify how successful the application is. When we explain it like this, oftentimes it's more social media apps and games on your phone that come to mind, but Leaning uses his study on gamification and how it can enhance student engagement to examine what gamification is and how it can be used as an educational tool. He states that gamification partly involves the adding a different form of an experience to an activity. So adding a new layer to an existing process that incorporates a new level of symbolic or ludic meaning above and beyond the merely instrumental activity of the task. The new meaning provides a greater experience for the user and encourages participation in the transformed activity. If we look at it in the context of ALC 203, it changed the way this uni subject is done from the norm of lectures and tutorials into a game of levels and challenges in order to hold the attention of the students in the course. We then need to understand that the way we look at gamification and user engagement is pivotal to understanding improvements that can be made if you want to make some kind of application, whether it be an electronic device or a more learning-based application. A research company, changed their definition of gamification in order to avoid market confusion, inflated expectations, and implementation failures as Gamification is the use of game mechanics and experience design to digitally engage and motivate people to achieve their goals. This definition is different from previous definitions of gamification in that it separates experience design from game mechanics and specifies the medium of gamification as digital. It is true that a lot of gamification takes the form of digital media. So for this purpose, I looked at a lot of iPhone applications that use gamification to enhance user engagement. For example, Snapchat is a social media app that uses gamification in a social environment to continually update itself and keep its users coming back. So with things like your story, where you post a video or photos for all of your Snapchat friends to see, and you can see how many people viewed your story. The best friends feature with the smiley faces to see who's your best friend and who's not your best friend. On the app, a snap streak feature, snap score feature. I don't know what that is. I don't think anyone really knows what that really means. But also there's the filters. And rather than committing itself to being just a photo sharing app, Snapchat has added elements of gamification to hold its users' interest. This also goes for apps like Mondly, which uses levels and unlockable achievements and incentives to keep using the apps while still learning a language. There's also the educational element if you move it to the classroom. I speak from personal experience where I say if you make something into a competition, I will commit 1,000% more than I would have if there was just a grade on the line. Now, while there are many pros to using gamification to enhance user engagement, there are also a few cons, and it's important to look at both when considering if it's the best possible option for higher levels of user engagement for your task at hand. One of the main cons I found when investigating gamification is that it doesn't actually feel like work. Faiella and Ricciardi state that a substantial body of research suggests that game elements may actually increase intrinsic motivation levels only when they make boring tasks
When they
increase extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation levels drop significantly, resulting in less enthusiasm for These results are in agreement with the self-determination theory and research on gameplay, according to which rewards and incentives decrease a person's intrinsic motivation to perform a task. This is mostly in reference to actual workplaces or in educational settings, because the reality is tests and exams and high pressure situations still exist, and even though at the time it didn't feel like work, these situations do, and it can be hard to kind of filter through all your gamified knowledge in order to utilize it. On the pro side, it doesn't feel like work. It becomes more fun, it becomes competitive, and you're still learning essential knowledge. But attaching it to this enjoyable experience, which from personal experience makes the information more retrievable. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned a bit on gamification and user engagement, and I will see you next time. Bye!